Just noticed that.
There we go.
So I'll get you to fix that. There we go. Yep, we're live now. Awesome. Just talking about Kamloops and Regina there. Sorry about that, everybody. We weren't live for a moment. I was just sharing an awesome story about the Kamloops Blazers coming into Regina in the 80s. But, you know, I can kind of attest to that a little bit, too, because, like, when Seattle came in here in 2023 and they had Dylan Gunther and they had Kevin Korchinski and these loaded teams, it was like watching a super team of an NHL team come in and play the Blazers, and it was awesome stuff. And I can only imagine, like, back in the 80s and 90s, what that was like, especially with the teams that they had. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, and that was, you know, as a fan, watching Rob Brown and the Blazers was a lot of fun. Dean Evison, a league final in 1984, the Regina Pats and Kamloops Blazers. There is quite a rivalry there. I don't think there is anymore. As you know, they don't play each other twice a year and that kind of thing. But in the 90s, it wasn't fun. It was not fun to play the Kamloops Blazers. Nat Domicelli, hey, Big Willie. Nat Domicelli, you really need to be a Dub fan to know how to say that name. Jerome McGinley, Shane Doan, Daryl Sador. Oh my God, Randy Petruk. I'm getting PTSD just thinking about it. That you didn't have a chance. It wasn't whether you were going to win or lose. It was how bad were you going to lose. that wasn't fun.
Yeah, you just mentioned Nat, and I just had a chance to meet him for the first time last weekend out here when the Vancouver Giants came into town, and I had the chance to talk to him. And oh, what a great guy! Definitely one of those undervalued players from that team. Doesn't get talked about enough. Sorry, but what a wonderful guy. Looking back to who were some of the players that you called that kind of like went on and had great NHL careers, or anybody in particular?
Of the Pats or the Blazers?
The Pats.
Oh, well, a lot. I will say, from the Blazers, I'll tell you something. The guy I remember the most is probably Ryan Rishaug. And you see him all the time on TSN.
Oh, yes.
Purdy doesn't get the credit he deserves as a hell of a junior hockey player, but I remember. But you asked about the Pats, so you know I get the question a lot. Who's your favorite all-time Pat? And it's Jordan Eberle, both personally and professionally. I love Jordan. I love him. We're friends to this day, and I was so happy to see him become the captain of the Seattle Kraken. Off the top of my head, NHL stars. I'm not sure that they were stars, but Brad Stewart, Josh Holden, Derek Morris, Josh Harding, you know, before injury ended his career in Minnesota. If that sounds like it might be, I see you guys nodding your heads. That's kind of your era as fans.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that comes to mind. And then the ability to call in the bubble, which I think Kamloops had the bubble in 2020, the COVID bubble. We had it in Regina for the East. And Connor Bedard was playing as a 15-year-old, and I had the ability to call his first game. He scored 2 goals. I called them both. I was doing it on television. So there's this wonderful debate we have in Regina. I don't know if you guys have it in Kamloops, who's the best all-time Blazer, but it's you want to start a war? Ask who's the greatest Regina Pat ever, because fists will start flying fast.
Is there a game? Is there a game or a moment that you kind of go back to that you often recall from Colin Pat's games?
Yeah, 2, which is unbelievable. Funny good questions, Colton. You're good at this. 1996 Eastern Conference quarterfinal. I mean, we're going back 30 years here, but we went to 4 overtimes. Regina Pats and Lethbridge Hurricanes in the Agrodome. It was on TSN. TSN was so back in the day. I get they're doing junior games again now, but back then they carried the whole thing. We went till 1:30 in the morning Regina time, 3:30 in the morning, you know, in the East. 4 overtimes, and we scored. Yeah, the Pats scored. It was Josh Holden on a tip. Why do I remember this stuff 30 years later? And then we went home and came back to the rink the next morning, jumped on the bus, and went to Lethbridge for game 3. Like there was no time to really sit and think about it. And the other one was the 2001 semifinal at the Memorial Cup in the Agrodome, which we lost. We had the chance to go to the final against Val-d'Or. Sorry, we were playing Val-d'Or. We scored on ourselves in overtime. We tied it up in the final minute to go to overtime, and then we score on ourselves in overtime. Oh, my God. And it ended up being Red Deer beating Val-d'Or to win the Memorial Cup in our barn the next day. Colby Armstrong, Cam Ward, and those Red Deer Rebels. So you may or may not be, well, you wouldn't be old enough to remember. But those 2 games, the 4 overtimes, which at the time was the longest game in WHL history. I don't know if it still is or not. I don't think it is. And the semifinal of the Memorial Cup in 01.
I think it's actually the Blazers. I think I was at that game. It went till about 2 a.m. BC time. I think they went to 6. It was like in part of 6, and it was right away at the beginning of the 6th. I was young. I was really young. But it could again be different from that now. But that's what I remember.
I remember it as being not fun. That's what I remember. And the players the same thing.
Oh, like it's that late in the night. Like Willie said, you should have just slept over at the rink at that rate. Looking at the league as a whole too, like how different the league is from back then to today. Like what's the one big difference you find? Because when I talked to Colby Armstrong a couple weeks ago on the show about it, we talked a lot about the physicality being a humongous difference in what goes on nowadays, right? But from your broadcasting point of view, what do you also kind of see that is a big difference from the old style WHL hockey that I grew up watching compared to today?
It's not even the same league, for one. Well, when we're done here, go to YouTube and type in Regina Pats Kamloops Blazers Brawl, and that's all you need to know. And that was maybe you guys have seen it. David Reekie, Devin Dubnik. Yeah, I think my voice is on there calling that game, and that was, to be honest, tame. In the 80s and 90s, that used to happen just about every Saturday night, especially when the Pats and Warriors play. And I absolutely loved it, and the fans did too. So the fights, for sure, it was a bloodbath. It was like pro wrestling meets hockey. And that was what I was raised on. I loved that. And how we got away from that, I'm not too sure, because the league fighting rule hasn't really changed or anything like that. Large league, I think you still fight 3 fights a game, but nobody does. But it's the physicality thing. And I had to make a decision because my last season full-time voice of the Pats was 2010. So I was going to the games and I'm like, this is not the hockey that I grew up on. I'm not as entertained as I used to be. And I thought about it for a while, like for days. I'm like, am I going to keep supporting this or not? And I realized, well, I am a hockey fan. What choice do I have? I got to go, right? So I kept going to the games, but it felt those young players end up in the National Hockey League. And just the other night, I was at the Panthers-Carolina game here. They're tracking hits on the scoreboard now. I don't know if they're doing it in the junior, but they're doing it in the NHL. Certainly in Sunrise they are. They had hits 12 minutes into the first period. The Panthers didn't have a hit. I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing here? But so what started in junior with being no hitters. Now this is preseason. The NHL is not like that in the regular season, but I like physical hockey, and we don't really see that anymore, certainly not till this spring.
No, but there are teams, you're not wrong. Like the Vancouver Canucks have been known for going periods without hits. Like that's a team that is not known for physicality. You look at the Anaheim Ducks, with Trevor Zegras, obviously he's not there anymore, but like that Anaheim Ducks iteration before Greg Cronin, they didn't play the body. They just floated around out there. We're playing mini sticks basically on the ice, doing random stuff. Like, I get what you're saying. It's completely different.
Well, it is too. Like I go back to just a couple nights ago, the WHL game. Blazers were hosting Seattle. We had a big hit that happened the night before, an injured player. And, within the first couple of minutes of the back-to-back series, there's a fight that breaks out, and immediately the refs jump in and break it apart. And the 4,000 people in the attendance start booing, and it's like, what are we doing here? Like, why are we breaking up fights when there's it bothers me too. It's the type of hockey I grew up watching, and I love the physicality side, and I don't really want to see that go away. So that's just my little rant.
Well, you mentioned Seattle, and I wondered how a guy like Matt Rempe would fare coming up through junior and then becoming a fighter in the NHL, because there are no goons in the WHL anymore, none. But somehow or another, Rempe found a way. He's doing just fine.
Yep.
So if you want to fight, you'll find a way to fight, but you pretty much have to wait until you get into the minors as a pro to really learn your craft, because Rempe wasn't in junior what he is here.
for sure. And I wonder if they
No,
need
and
to
that
make a rule for the refs, right? Like a rule implemented throughout the league, and maybe tell me if I'm way off here, but like the refs should know who are the 17 and belows and the 18 and aboves. And I feel like the 18 to 20-year-olds who are now legal adults, they should leave those ones be. But if you got a 20-year-old going after a 16-year-old, maybe the refs jump in, right? Like that type of thing. So, but if you have like a 16 and 16-year-old, you kind of let that, right? They need to have some discretion about what's going on. But the 18 to 20-year-olds, there should be no lineman jumping in immediately to stop that, because we've seen it change. We watched it here at the Memorial Cup 2023 when Stillman absolutely obliterated. Who did he hit, Colton? And then Bankier fought him and got destroyed.
Who did he hit?
It was the other line.
I can't remember.
Bankier, Stankoven, and whoever they played with. Either way, ran him over. Bankier came in, got his ass kicked. For a team that the Blazers beat 10-1 the first game of the Memorial Cup, all of a sudden they got right there. They got reversed, and that was it. That was their tournament. So there is a huge place for it in the game.
And that's in the memory. I mean, go back.
Yeah.
I think it was the 89 Memorial Cup where Ty Domi fought. No, 85 Memorial Cup when Ty Domi fought Ken Baumgartner in the penalty box. I think it was in Sault Ste. Marie. That's another one in the penalty box. They'd throw you in jail now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd get a 30-game suspension for fighting in the penalty box.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hey, Rod, who are some of the tough guys from that generation that you called? Like, kind of rattle off some names for us.
Well, the big one that comes to mind is Derek Bugard, the boogeyman.
Yes.
Who we all remember him, 6'5", and he was playing a bantam or maybe midget game in Melfort when our head scout, Todd Ripplinger, saw him. He jumped into the opposition's bench and started fighting the whole team. We listed him the next day, and the day after that, he was in Regina playing for us. I mean, just an absolute freak, physically wonderful, wonderful young guy. Most of the fighters are, to be honest with you. And then if you guys are Canucks fans, sounds like you are, both of you, for sure, Riley, Rick Rippon was a guy that pound per pound, we used to always say, this is the toughest guy we've ever had in Regina at 5'11", like 170. He would fight anybody. And he got to the NHL and did the exact same thing. And I guess as we sit here and talk about it, that's two guys that aren't even with us anymore. That might be why the WHL moved away from this style of play. There's no guys even like that really in the NHL anymore. They're certainly not guys fighting every night like they were. So Bugard and Rippon come to mind. And then guys that you probably wouldn't have heard of because they didn't go on to the NHL. But Josh Dobbin, if you just imagine a guy with 2 Cindercrete blocks on his fist, just whang. You got hit by that, there's no coming back. There was, again, Kyle Frederick played a few games with the New York Rangers. He was a Cowboy from Killam, Alberta, and like 6'6". Man, just every single night. You guys you probably wouldn't remember Todd Fedor because before your time in Kelowna, went on to the NHL with Philadelphia, but it was no different in the junior level than it was in the NHL. Like in the NHL, leading up to a night where Probert was going to fight Domi at Madison Square Garden or whatever, the Dub had it too. We had heavyweight fights that were built up, and the internet was just getting going. We had these wild message boards. Everybody was talking about what was going to happen in the fight, who was going to fight who. Oh man, it was so exciting.
Yeah, we had being young, you don't know really the other players around the league, but we had Mike Brown and AJ Baines in the early 2000s. And I remember watching Mike Brown fight Zdeno Chara. That was a big deal. Chara playing for the Cougars, like holy, and huge size advantage. And he still stuck in there because he was a heck of a fighter. So yeah, Mike Brown, he was like my favorite player growing up.
A hell of a hockey player. I don't really know how it ended up. I mean, I don't know when they ended with the interlocking schedules, like where we would play in each other's barn at least once, but we would hear about these guys out in the Eastern Conference. They're like, oh, they got this guy in Kamloops, this Mike Brown. Where do you see this guy? Or any of these animals in the Western Conference. So when we finally went out there on our West Coast trip, again, it got to be a really big deal. Ours was Kyle Frederick or Josh Dobbin or Bugard. He would line up against those guys, and it was a big deal, man. And I don't know. It's just, don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened.
Yeah.
It was a fun time.
It is, yeah, it was. And, like I was joking with one of our scouting directors here with the Blazers the other night when warm-ups was happening and a couple players kept kind of crossing the center line. And, he made a comment to me and he said, oh, if this was 20 years ago, this would have been a fight by now. And it just goes to show that like the evolution of the WHL, of course. And, but what about yourself, though? Did you see any crazy pregame antics or anything like that?
Are you kidding me? In the WHL?
Yeah.
I saw it every night. Like, I remember going into Seattle long before even the Key Arena where they played, where the Kraken play now. There was a rink right next door called the Seattle Center Arena, the Rock and Roll Arena. They had chicken wire around the ends, not glass, chicken wire. And the fans were like hanging over the glass, throwing stuff at our guys. I remember there was a group of policemen before the game, about 7, standing in a circle. All of them had to be at least 6'6". And I'm like, what do they have you guys here for? What's going to go on here tonight? And that particular night, again, these are old-time names that you guys didn't remember. Maybe some of our viewers will, but Chad Wilczynski and Josh Holden of the Pats, I'll be honest, I don't mind saying it. I'll say it now. It's only been 30. Spit on some fans in Seattle. You can imagine how that went over. And fans were dumping beers on our coach, Rich Preston, over the glass at the bench onto our coach. He grabbed a stick and went into the crowd. And all of us, and I'm calling this game in the rink in Seattle. The press box was right in the middle of the fans. So, I mean, and fans were littering. Our goalie was a 20-year-old by the name of Andy Adams. We got him from Ontario. He was standing out at the top of the circle, swatting nacho containers and pop containers with his stick and his glove from fans. That was just an average night. One night in Portland, it was Taco Bell night, and every fan got a little bell. A taco, like similar to this, but it was a Taco Bell. And a brawl erupted. If you've ever been in the Memorial Coliseum in Portland, the press box is right in the middle of the stands. I said something because I'm very loud. Fans all heard it. They turned and started pelting me they were throwing bells at me. The Portland fans made a wall around me. They got up and made it to protect me and get people to stop throwing these bells. I usually start all this stuff myself. But in Moose Jaw and Regina, those rivalries, there was a brawl every weekend. We would play there Friday, Regina Saturday, or vice versa. And one night, one of our players had Ryan Thomas is his name, a bunch of his friends there. He's from Regina. They grabbed the mascot for the Warriors and started kicking the shit out of the Warriors mascot. And the mascot's helmet rolled off, and it was a woman. That story just came up this summer. Oh, they stopped. I mean, they didn't expect to see that. This was before the DEI age. But, dude, I could go on and on. I'll stop there. Is that enough stories for you? Like
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay. We're talking a lot about like these smaller cities and how like what makes junior hockey cities so marketable and like places like Kamloops and Moose Jaw and stuff like that. Like what do you think makes them such junior hockey hotbeds?
Well, you just said it. It's similar to what I've learned why college football is so big in the U.S. South. Knoxville, Tennessee, Auburn, Alabama, Tallahassee, Florida. It's their NFL. And in those junior towns, it's their NHL. And I'll be honest, because I was from a town of 600 people, so I didn't care much for the big city. To me, Regina was a big city. When I heard the Dub was going into Vancouver, going into Calgary, going into Edmonton, I didn't like it. I like the small barns. I'm a small town guy, right? I like the packed rinks. The Saddledome's never packed. I mean, it was to go watch Bedard, but it's their NHL. You know the answer to that. The Blazers are your fans' NHL, the biggest deal in town.
100%. And I think that's a great way to put it. Are there any WHL voices like around today that you kind of keep an eye on and listen to?
All of them. I'm a junior hockey fan. So Les Lazaruk, I kind of sit and look and wonder how he's still doing it. I was thinking of this the other day. Like, I did 20 seasons in the Dub, and people act like it was 2. Compared to Les or in Saskatoon, or Bob Ridley in Medicine Hat, or Scooter Vrooman just got the Golden Microphone Award this summer at the Scouts Hall of Fame that I was at. So those guys, I laugh because Scooter Vrooman, I don't know if you guys know him at all. He called the games for 30 plus years in Portland. In a TV timeout, they would put him up on the screen, and they would play, hey, oh, whatever that hip hop song was in the 90s, and Scooter would wave. So that Dante DeCaria in Regina is a good friend of mine. And I really like his call. James Gallo in Moose Jaw, which is where I spend my summers. I love James' play-by-play call for the Warriors. He's a great guy. So Robbie Mahan in Brandon, the mouth of the South. I keep in touch with all these guys.
Oh, that's awesome. One more from us before we kind of transition into some Florida Panthers talk. But what advice would you have for young WHL, or not even WHL, just young broadcasters and guys looking to get into the media world and into hockey broadcasting?
Get a second job. That would be my start.
Yeah.
It doesn't pay. It never really did pay a lot, but it pays less now than ever. But what I would say is enjoy every single second of it. And I would also say this is very key. If you're starting in junior, or even I'll always call it midget, you see the same people on the way up as you do on the way down. So you better be a good guy. Because when my show started on Game Plus TV, they had no idea who I was. Who's this guy? I was still in Regina at the time. We went to national television in Toronto, and they're like, who is this guy that knows Mike Babcock and knows, all these big NHL names? I'm like, I've known Bab since I was 19 when he was the head coach of the Moose Jaw Warriors, or, Ken Hitchcock, or any of those guys. Like, you treat people with respect, be a good guy, and you'll have a long career in this business more than anything, because anybody can call a game. Sorry, anybody can call it. Anybody is calling a game, right? It's how you treat people and your relationships with the players. Like I say, I'm so proud of my relationships with the players that to this day, I can send a message to any one of them and have them return it and have a conversation with them. So it's the relationships. Cherish those. That's what I would tell anybody.
That's awesome.
That's perfect. Before we move forward here, we're just going to take a quick ad break, and we will be right back. NFL fans, what's your favorite touchdown? For me, it's the next one, because with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, every touchdown can bring you closer to cashing in. From your first touchdown score to anytime TD props or the thrill of live in-game betting, every snap is loaded with opportunity. This week on the DraftKings Sportsbook app, you can find lines such as the New York Giants to beat the New Orleans Saints at plus 100 and Cam Scatabo at minus 135 for a touchdown. Lines and odds are subject to change. Here's the best part. You can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets instantly.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-78-97-777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Fees may apply in Illinois. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. NFL Sunday Ticket offer for new subscribers only and auto renews until canceled. Digital games and commercial use excluded. Restrictions apply. Apply NFL Sunday Ticket terms at youtube.com/go/NFL Sunday Ticket/terms. Limited time offer.
Thank you for sticking through that. We're going to transition into some NHL talk a little bit about the jersey behind Rod, which is the beautiful Florida Panthers alternate jersey that we were talking a little bit about before we came on the air. I absolutely love it. But Rod, what is it like down in Florida? It's back-to-back Stanley Cups. What's hockey like down there? We haven't really had the opportunity to talk to somebody from Florida yet.
It's exciting. I'm lucky that I'm going into my 5th season covering the Panthers. So I was here at the tail end of the bad, and I've seen nothing but it get better ever since. So 3 straight Stanley Cup finals, 2 straight Stanley Cup championships. That rink was empty for most of that first season when I was covering the team. Joel Quenneville was the head coach. So that tells you that was a long time ago here. Now, while you see Panthers gear a lot in the area and around town, I just started yesterday. I did my first Cats and Bolts podcast of the season. It's our 3rd season doing that. We cover the Panthers and the Lightning, and people aren't really into it yet around here. They're into college football. They're into the Dolphins as long as they're winning. They're into a lot of other things, to be honest. So it's a little slow getting going here in South Florida, but and it's kind of going to depend on how the Panthers do with these injuries you've seen. People are really nervous here that the three-peat, they're not even talking about the three-peat anymore. That talk died the second Alexander Barkov went down. But in Tampa Bay, Riley's team, I mean, I don't know if you've been there, Riley, for a game or not.
Yeah. Not for a game, but I've been to Tampa. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, the Panthers the Lightning sell out every single game. And the Panthers do now, but the Lightning have for years. Okay, so to compare the two cities, I go to Tampa a lot for games, especially when the Panthers are there. And they say up until when Brady won a Super Bowl with the Buccaneers, the Lightning were the number one team in town because they were good for 20 years. They were the number one team in town. That includes the Buccaneers and the Rays. Here, the Panthers are popular when they're winning. That's about it. But I wore Oilers gear in the gym the other day, and I got beaked for it. And I'm like, it's finally a hockey town. 5 years ago, nobody would have even known what it was. So it's picking up a lot.
Good.
Yeah, awesome. It's cool to hear though, because it's nice to see. It's nice to see the development of it down there as well. And looking at the team as a whole, what do you make out of the news today of Nico signing that extension?
Well, there's a saying here: in Zito we trust. And he's earned it. He's been the general manager of the Panthers since 2021, and they've done nothing but win since he got here. So Mikkola he's an unheralded name. I mean, you're starting to see these names because the guys are going deep into the playoffs. You now know who a Gustav Forsling is or a Nico Mikkola, right? They're key parts of back-to-back Stanley Cup champion teams. But the thing that I love about Bill Zito, I mean, I'm a fan of all sports. I assume you guys are too. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. That comes with a lot of pain. And Jerry Jones leaves everything late there. He's all about ego. He's all about himself. The contracts run into training camp. They run into the season. Here, Zito gets everybody done ahead of time. Like, you look who's locked up. Barkov has been locked up for years. Kachuk was locked up the second they got him from Calgary. Verhaeghe was signed midseason. Everybody's signed. And then to pull off the big three last year, Bennett, Marchand, and Ekblad. Nobody thought there was any way Zito was going to be able to pull that off. He did. And then he got Paul Maurice signed to an extension midseason last year. So this with Mikkola, it's Bill Zito thinking ahead, looking ahead. He's always ahead of the curve. And the thing about Zito, because you wouldn't see him probably in the coverage of Canadian networks, because you're inundated with Canadian NHL teams. Here, somebody said about Zito, because he's a blue-collar guy from Milwaukee, grew up clubhouse attendant of the Brewers when he was 15 years old. He runs the team like we would all run the team if we were running it. Meaning he treats people with respect. He doesn't keep people on edge. He lets them know where they stand. And look at the results.
Yeah, the results speak for themselves. When you look at other sports, like, I'm a big fan of the NFL. The Jaguars are my team, and I've seen what James Gladstone did in acquiring the second overall pick. And I know I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but when GMs are actually invested into their team, it makes it so much better because you have a guy like Zito, who is one of the best, in my opinion, one of the best GMs in the league. And he's so good at articulating himself with the media as well. And he's just so focused on what's at stake, which is getting a championship and going for what's important. And I find that with Zito it's super important. And that's why he's had that success so far. But easily one of my favorite GMs out of all the four big sports.
Yeah, and the other thing is, like, they have their own practice facility about 15, 20 miles from the big rink in Sunrise. But Bill Zito rolls around there. You see him every day in a tracksuit. It's really, really cold in there, so he's often wearing a toque. And, I come from Canada where training camp sessions are generally closed. My God, junior hockey training camps, I assume you guys have covered them. Oh, my God, we couldn't hand out a roster. Yeah. Who's going to be looking? Everything's so secretive. Here, it's every session's open. The PR people are walking around handing out rosters to everybody. Bill Zito's standing there talking to the fans, talking to the media. They're just so open. They're so relaxed and casual. Sort of like, we got nothing to hide. And it's really refreshing. It might be a U.S. sports team or hockey team. I haven't been around many, but it seems pretty rare to me that the way he runs the team.
It does seem like a rarity for sure. Looking at the roster again, who do you kind of have pegged as a breakout player this year for the Panthers?
Probably Mackie Samoskevich.
That's
Ever
a good
since
answer.
I got here, well, not even that. Ever since they drafted him a couple of years ago, it's all been Mackie Samoskevich. I heard it so much, I was sick of hearing it because he wasn't up with the big team. But that's another thing. They send their young guys to the minors. They don't rush them. Any of them. If you notice, there's no Connor Bedard's with the Florida Panthers. They don't bring him in until they got 3, 4, 5 years pro experience. So he would be the big one. I mean, I don't have a real complaint about the Panthers roster. Other than that, I look around and go, man, you could have a few more Canadians for my liking. But you just won 2 Stanley Cups, so I'm not criticizing anything. But, I was watching Grayson Sachin the other night, Noah Gregor. They're all trying to make this team, and there's a lot of left-handed shots, young guys, and there's 2 big gaping holes for Matthew Tkachuk and Alexander Barkov for left-handed shooting forwards. So I'm just interested to see how that all plays out. Samoskevich isn't one of them. He's right wing. I can't believe his shot. He's got they all got great shots now. His is a cut above. So he would be the guy.
That's a good answer. Riley, you got anything you want to ask about Tampa?
Well, actually, I'm going to add to that real quick. I'm really looking forward to Anton Lundell because the world thinks they know how good he is as a third line center. I'm assuming they're putting him first line in Barkov's spot. That would be my thought. So I don't think the world is ready to see how good he's going to be anchoring a first line NHL and being a mini Barkov, as people call him, right? I think he's ready for that, and I think it's going to be pretty impressive to see how good he's going to do, not held back by a third line role where he's potentially the best third line center in the NHL.
Yeah, I think I had Craig Button on my show a couple of weeks ago, and he had him the third best third line center. I can't remember who the top 2 were, but he's that guy. He just signed long-term too. That was slid under in the summertime. Nobody really noticed. But the other thing is really good guy. The culture here is really good. So obviously you guys are hockey guys. You get it. Here, they don't really know hockey as much. Those third and fourth line wingers will just get moved up, or center, depending on what. They'll get moved up, and it's then who comes into the next spot, right? That's where I'm looking for the Noah Gregors and these kinds of guys. So we'll see. But Lundell he's a huge piece of what they do here. Who's this Dayton Como?
He's our other co-host. I'm often obviously not here actually on this morning slot. I'm either at work or doing something else, so I'm filling in. Dayton, he pretty much runs everything. He produces, he runs scripts and stuff for the DraftKings ads as well. So yeah, he does all the background stuff. He has a question for you at the end. We're going to bring him on. He'll take stuff for you at the end here. But I'll throw to Tampa. What are your thoughts? I guess for lack of better words, did Julian Breezeball start to think his shit didn't stink in the way he treated Stamkos? What are your thoughts there? Because I hate it. I thought it was brutal. I thought Breezeball was a fantastic GM from 2020 to 2024. And then all of a sudden, for some reason, he thought after 4 years he could big time the best captain in the history of the Tampa Bay Lightning, in my opinion.
Well, I didn't like it either. Something happened there, and nobody in Tampa will talk about it. So last year, I wrote a column in the South Florida Tribune and took a few shots at the Lightning just to see if they were paying attention on that exact same thing, and they didn't bite. I can't imagine Stamkos did anything untoward. He wasn't the longest-serving Lightning for nothing in 16 seasons there. I just don't like the way some icons get treated at the end, but it is what it is. And then I was waiting for them to fall. I had them picked to miss the playoffs last year, and it just never happened. And they caught fire and finished ahead of the Panthers. And trust me, I had Lightning fans and media rubbing it in my face all year and into the playoffs. So I won't do that again. I won't pick them not to. So I think in the case of Breezeball, he proved a lot to me. I didn't like the way it was done, but I also been around sports long enough to know what is the good way to cut an icon. There isn't one. It was done very coldly, but that's the way sports is these days.
Well, I think, to me, you've got 2 cups out of him, 4 finals. He's aging. Hedman's aging. Like, is Jake Gensel, yes, he had a great year, but was he that much better on production than Stamkos would be that you had to cold shoulder him like that, right? Like, Gensel is great, but you lost a guy who's put 16 years into the city, not just on the ice. A guy who broke his leg. He's had all these injuries that he came back from. And he always came back better. Whether he wasn't able to skate as fast, he became a better passer. Right. So he always transitioned his game for what was best for Lightning, learning that from St. Louis, learning that from LeCavalier. So, and yeah, I don't know. I just watched it and I was just like, that's such a pain, because he's the reason I became a Lightning fan. And I debated fandom a little bit. I was like, man, like, watched the OH draft. It was my first draft ever. They drafted Stamkos. I was like, who is this kid? Kind of, I was 12 years old. So I started following them and became a diehard fan because of this guy. And then they, turn on him like that. I was like, man, do I really want to follow this team still after that?
Well, if Colton hasn't realized this by now, if you're going to cover a team, you need to have, there's a script and you need to follow it. And you may not agree with it, but you need to follow it. And the reason I bring that up is Dave Randorf, the voice of the Lightning, is a really close friend of mine. And I'm not telling any tales out of school. I heard him saying this on the radio, on NHL radio one day. He was being interviewed. And he goes, let's make it clear. Jake Gensel was not signed to replace Steven Stamkos. And I'm sitting there going, how could he not be? It happened on the same day, and he got the bag. Stammer was offered an insult of a contract, and he's playing on the top line. But that's what Rambo said. And I don't even really understand that. How could you not say he was signed? No, he didn't come in to be the captain, obviously. The C was very quickly put on Victor Hedman. But I'll say it again, something happened there. And I don't know what it is, and nobody in Tampa is talking about it. So I leave it alone.
Yeah, and I think definitely those comments at the beginning of his final season, basically saying like, what the fuck, no one's reached out to me, outing the management.
Ooh.
That, I think that nailed it in the coffin. But at the same time, it's like, again, Breezeball, you're 4 years, right? Your 16-year captain is calling you out for being treated poorly. You should probably do more than what you did, in my opinion. You know what? If you sign him and you never win another cup, like, fuck, we're looking at Buffalo Sabres. Look at all their players winning cups everywhere else, and they can't even make the playoffs. Right? Like, it's not that bad.
Yeah. Difference, of course, is the bad culture in Buffalo versus Tampa Bay, where Stammer had a terrible year in Nashville, and the Lightning went on to have home ice in round one of the playoffs. So now, the year before, Stamkos was a goal a game in round one against Florida. He was their best player. So, listen, I'm with you, Riley.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't get it either. But there's a reason that they aren't saying, and we'll never know.
Yeah,
we'll never know.
No,
and
that's fine.
It's semantics, and it's the stuff that you'll never really know until maybe Stammer talks about it in 20 years or something along those lines, right? But it was brought up yesterday on the sheet even with Jeff Merrick about how like Stammer could be following in Fleury's kind of steps, where he could go back to Tampa and do the last little twirl in the preseason game and have his one last dance with Tampa, and we probably see that. Like, so Riley, he's not done with Tampa yet. I don't think you'll probably see him back with Tampa for season or before his career ends, of course.
Yeah, hopefully it's for more than a preseason game. Hopefully he gets like a third line center role and gets to hang out for a season or two. But because he only signed the 4 years, and he's not devastatingly old. He'll be like 36, 37, just depends how his leg can hold up. That's really the catch.
Yeah. Rod, you've been fantastic. We've kept you for almost 40 minutes. I think Dayton wants to quickly ask a question, so we'll bring Dayton aboard and he can do that.
Oh.
Hey, Rod, how's it going?
Nice lid.
Thanks, man. Thanks. We were talking earlier at the start of the show about you being the voice of the Regina Pats. I was just going to mention my buddy actually just got hired as the play-by-play voice of the Regina Pat Canadians, the AAA team, the major league team. Yeah.
Where's he from?
He's from where is he from? He's like right out front, like right outside of like Regina.
Okay, yeah, he looked like a local boy. He looked very happy in the photo I saw. I obviously
Oh,
follow Pat
you
Canadian.
saw it? Yeah.
Oh, of course I saw. That's my home, man. I follow it for sure. I did Pat Canadian's games too, so I wish him well, and he's going to be able to watch some two pretty good young players with the Patsies this year.
Yeah, I actually just messaged him, and he's like, "Oh man, he's like local royalty around Regina."
We'll see. I don't know about that, but I hope I'm interested to watch his games, and I will be tuning them in. And that's a pretty big job, man. I'm very proud of him.
All right, yeah. I just wanted to mention that to you. And anyways, nice to meet you, Rod.
Nice to meet you guys. Great job you do.
Okay. I think that wraps it up for today. Rod, if you where can everybody find your stuff? How about you kind of leave off that?
We are daily on Game Plus Television. Is that where you watch us, Colton? On Game Plus TV? Yeah, channel 924 on TELUS, channel 230, I believe, on Rogers Shaw, or YouTube, The Rod Pedersen Show. I'm into a lot of stuff now. We do the Cats and Bolts podcast. You can look that up on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. That's all Panthers and Lightning talk. We just did our first show yesterday. Jeff Chikrin, Jacob's dad, joined me, and rodpeterson.com. I'm not hard to find, as Coach Prime says. So good to meet you, Cowboys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it was a pleasure having you on. Thanks so much, Rod.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Mr. Riley.
That was awesome, man. Good for me for getting to talk to someone from Florida and get to know more of the in-depth stuff. I love that.
That was great. That was great. Little rookie mistake by me a couple times with the show today, but hey,
and
first
me.
show back in a
And
couple
me.
weeks. We're getting back into the groove of things. So we appreciate everybody for tuning in. The edited version, I'm sure, will be. There will be no edited version. Never mind.
Live. What do you mean?
Yeah,
There is
you
no
guys
edit.
can just watch the
that's good.
chaos. Just enjoy the chaos. Tomorrow, Johnny Lazarus of Daily Face Off and Daily Face Off New York joins us. Daily Face Off New York, of course, is the new publication that is started up by Johnny and Daily Face Off. So Laz will join us tomorrow, talk about the Rangers. Willie, get all your questions and chirps into the chat tomorrow. That's about it for tomorrow. What's going on tonight, fellas? What do you guys got going on? Thursday night football. You guys watching that?
Yeah.
I'm not watching Thursday night. No, what are you saying, Riley? Go ahead.
Oh, I mean, I don't even know who's playing. I haven't even looked. Let me look. Actually, you know what's
LA and
wild?
San Francisco.
A guy, I won't name him, but at work this week on Sunday, he was super nonchalant. And I guess he put $1,000 on a parlay and he won $550,000 at work, $500,000. And he was just like, "Oh, cool." Put it back in his pocket.
Nice.
Yeah, very.
Would
And
be
no,
nice.
he showed us before, and he was like, "Isn't that sick?"
He should.
It's like,
He should. If we ever need an honorary betting segment, we're gonna bring him on.
yeah,
That's insane.
It was definitely like a one-time thing. He definitely just got lucky on that one.
yeah.
He used
It's
all his
getting
luck
muted right now.
for the year. Yeah, I think that wraps up the show for today. But back tomorrow at 12 o'clock Pacific, 3 o'clock Eastern with Johnny Lazarus from Daily Face Off right here on GDT Live.
What's going on, everyone? Thank you for tuning into another video over here on the Game Day Tarps podcast and the Hockey Podcast Network. We've got so much more where this came from, so smash the like button, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell, turn the notifications on so you never miss a beat. For myself and the rest of the guys over at Game Day Tarps, we thank you, and we'll see you next time.